Shalom, Shalom, Israel. Welcome back to Q&A with the A-Team. My name is Shamar Yah, to my right. Yashmai and Daras. and tonight, you guys know how Q&A works, so you can tune in with your biblical questions. We don't profess to know everything, however, brothers will, as we know in part, we prophesy in part. This is pretty much just a platform so that anyone in Israel, whether you're a part of this body or not, you have an opportunity to seek sound doctrine. It's not something where you have to solely rely on YouTube, solely rely on, teachers that you can actually talk to or communicate. Offers the possibility if you're having, questions or gripes in a body that you're a part of, or just even within yourself because you're reading the word and there are things that you don't understand. That's what tonight is for. So you have an opportunity to be able to ask those questions and brothers can answer them scripturally. So please share this with your friends and family. Also, you never know who's going to come into the truth or who's going to have questions that they may not ask you, but they'd like a platform like this to be able to ask. So, just make sure that this is something that you share with your friends and family so they have the same opportunity of learning as well. We actually do have a question. Can we take medicine on Day of Atonement? Well, so if you're talking about orally, like something that you have to drink or eat,
Let's go to the book of Jonah. Khan. I want to do two things. Nah, we'll deal with this. And this should be enough. Go ahead, read that in Jonah 2. I'm sorry, 3. Jonah 3.
Jonah chapter 3 and verse 7. And he caused it to be proclaimed and published through Nineveh by the decree of the king of his nobles, saying, let neither man nor beast, herd nor flock taste anything. Let them not feed nor drink water.
So if you read up, they were talking about a fast that they were committing to, right? So as it pertains to a fast or a dry fast, which is what Day of Atonement is, a dry fast, you don't taste anything. You know, no food, no water, no medicine, toothpaste. That's why they say that it's a day that you afflict your souls. I forgot who I was talking to not too long ago. We was talking about actually what it means to afflict your soul. And one of the most difficult things to overcome is, your appetite. The other thing is your desire for comfortability. So something as simple as, man, I can't brush my teeth the whole day. Yes, that's the purpose. And technically, when you read about the Day of Atonement, it talked about you're supposed to wear certain clothes, the sackcloth, which was like potato sack. What's that material? I know, but it's
Burlap?
Is that what it's called? Burlap?
Something like actual sack.
Yeah, the sack. Yeah,
Okay.
You're supposed to be wearing that. You're supposed to put ashes on your head. Like it's a day of full blown affliction. In addition to that, I want to get Sirach chapter 38. A lot of times this is what we forget. We become so dependent upon doctors, so dependent upon medicine, and we forget about this. Read verse 1 and then drop down, actually 1 and 2.
Sirach chapter 38, verse 1. Honor a physician with the honor due unto him for the uses which he may have of him.
Right. So honor the physician, honor the doctor, honor the doctor's recommendation, honor the doctor's advice, right? Read.
For the Lord hath created him.
Because doctors come from the Most High, right? Read.
For of the Most High cometh healing.
Read that again.
For of the Most High cometh healing.
Right, read on.
And he shall receive honor of the king.
Right. Now, drop down to verse, is it 9? Yes.
Verse 9, my son, in thy sickness be not negligent, but pray unto the Lord, and he will make thee whole.
And then it also talks about how, verse 15.
Verse 15, he that sinneth before his maker, let him fall into the hand of the physician.
Right. So the scriptures tell us for Day of Atonement, one, we don't take, during a dry fast, you don't taste of anything, right? That's number one. Number two, a lot of the medication you can't even take on an empty stomach, so technically you would still have to eat. That's number two, which would, again, transgress the law. Number three, the Most High is the one that's going to heal you. The Most High can get you through this day. We've had a number of people with medical conditions that had to take medicine every single day, and they decided not to take it on atonement, and they were perfectly fine. The question now lies, wherein is how strong is your faith? How strong do you truly believe in the Most High? Do you believe in the Most High, or do you believe in this stuff that the doctor gave you, right? So the scriptures tell us nothing, taste nothing. So as far as medication is concerned, no, you wouldn't take medication on the Day of Atonement. You guys have something?
No, just to add to the point, because the brother's exactly right. Go to Leviticus 23 and 26, just so we can show you how afflicting your souls in the Bible is actually correlated to fasting. And a fast, biblically, is not the same what you see going on today. You know, today in the church, people will fast from soda or what? Porn. Right, the Christian church, they said, you know what, I didn't watch porn all week. You know, I fasted from that. But a fast, according to the Bible, is an opportunity for you to afflict your flesh so that you can gain everything on the spiritual side, right? So you don't taste anything, water, food, nothing, right? Let's read that real quick. Leviticus 23 and 27.
Leviticus 23:27. Also on the 10th day of this 7th month, there shall be a day of atonement.
Go ahead.
It shall be an holy convocation unto you.
Uh-huh.
And ye shall afflict your souls and offer an offering made by fire unto the Lord.
So he said on this day we should afflict our souls. Now let's go to Isaiah chapter 58 and verse 3. He said, you must afflict your soul. Go ahead.
Verse 3, wherefore have we fasted?
So
say they,
wherefore have we fasted? Go ahead.
say they, and thou seest not.
Uh-huh.
Wherefore have we afflicted our soul?
So you can see that's the correlation. Afflicting your soul means you start to put this flesh and this carnality into subjection, and the way you do that is you starve it, right? And that's why you see so many spiritual people in the Bible, people, men and women who went on to do great things in Israel. They practiced this, they fasted, right? You started to cut off your flesh so that you became closer and more in tune with the Most High spiritually. So, you know, just to go back and answer the question, no, you can't take anything for the Day of Atonement. If you know, and that's probably hard for some people because there's a lot of underlying conditions that people have, and you know, you may be in a hospital for certain things. You just pray to the Most High to give you that strength for that day, because it's not worth losing your soul. The Most High is the one who heals us.
And again, we've had many of people that have had conditions where it was mandatory for them to take medication every single day, and they were perfectly fine on Day of Atonement.
I want to get a scripture real quick, unless there's any more questions, because I don't see any. Give me, I believe it's 1 Peter. In season and out of season. 1 second. Actually, 2 Timothy 4 and 2. You can start at verse 1. Because, you know, this is a outlet that we actually give to our people, and it's so good because we're giving our people an opportunity to, you know, really have their sincere questions answered. I grew up, for the most part, in the Christian church. You know, I didn't go to the Catholic churches. I didn't go to any of the weird Masonic temples. I went to the Christian church. The Christian church wasn't a place where you can have your questions answered. When you had sincere questions, a lot of times they were, you know, derailed, or they try to take you about another way just to bring you back to a specific point that was really vain. But when people start having questions about the truth, this is something that a lot of times you won't be able to get in, you know, the denominations that you have out there in the world. They're not going to answer these questions. You start going to your pastor saying, are we the Israelites? They're going to say, oh, well, we were Israelites. And, you know, you start getting weird answers. But, you know, we want to make sure that when platforms like this is being open to our people, that we're doing our best to share it with everybody, because you never know who has questions. You have a lot of people who have a hard time believing the Bible because of the nonsense that's been pushed out for so many years, and they keep hearing the same, you know, rhetoric, and it doesn't make sense to a lot of people, so they kind of just stray away from it. They have questions. This is the perfect time to send those people these classes so that they can actually have their questions answered, right? So let's read that.
2 Timothy chapter 4, verse 2.
Start at verse 1.
Verse 1. I charge thee therefore before the Most High.
So a lot of people don't even understand that we were charged with this word. We have a responsibility to give our people the truth. And the beautiful thing is we don't beg you guys for money. We're not sending around the collection plate during classes saying, pay. We're not doing that. If we could do this for free, we would, right? But go ahead.
And the Lord Jesus Christ, who shall judge the quick and the dead at his appearing and his kingdom.
Go ahead.
Preach the word.
So we're obligated to preach the word. And we know that is something that's taboo in 2022. So many people do not live by the words of God. They live by the words of man, woman, right? Social media. Go ahead.
Be instant, in season, out of season.
So the Bible is telling us that we have to be instant, in season and out of season. It's a reason why brothers give time to study this word so that we can give our people answers that are satisfying to the soul, right? We don't want to be like our people in Isaiah chapter 30 where it says we telling our people smooth things. We don't want to tell them the truth. That's not the space that we're in. We want to give our people the truth and what's needed for our souls to be saved. And it says you have to be instant, in season and out of season. There should never be a moment to where we're not willing and able to answer our people's questions concerning this doctrine. Go ahead.
Reprove, rebuke.
So reproving our people, rebuking our people. This is actually what the Bible is a huge proponent of, which is accountability. There's so much destruction going on within our communities because nobody is being held accountable. But when you actually live the words of this Bible, it says that you're going to reprove and rebuke your people. When you see somebody going off and they're doing it maliciously, you get a chance to rebuke them, which is harsh correction, right? And then even reproving our people. Maybe it's not malicious and brothers is doing things ignorantly. Well, it says now you got a chance to reprove them. Show them a better way. Go ahead.
Exhort with all long suffering and
exhorting
doctrine.
our people, right? That means exhort isn't like, hey, I really want you to, come do what I'm doing. Exhorting is like, nah, Isaiah 58:1, crying aloud, showing our people, brothers and sisters, look, this is what you need to be focused on, right? Really trying to be that voice of reason for our people, reproving our people, rebuking our people, exhorting them. Go ahead.
With all long suffering and doctrine.
With all long suffering and doctrine. So that's why we've opened up this platform for our people, because we are long suffering. We didn't always know that we was Israelites and that the Most High only cared about Israel and that there was laws to keep. So we understand a lot of our other, family members and friends are in that same space. We're long suffering. We're going to continue to have these classes as long as we're here in captivity. But the thing is, while these classes are going on, utilize them, share them, right? Comment, interact. I think that's all I wanted from there.
Okay.
Actually, let's just keep reading down.
Verse 3, for the time will come when they will not endure sound doctrine, but after their own lusts shall they heap to themselves teachers having itching ears.
And that's exactly the generation that we're living in now, and why it's so much more important that we actually do what the Bible says, which is reprove, rebuke, and exhort our people. Because we're living in a generation where people could care less about what God says. They'd rather listen to what Instagram and social media is telling them, or their pastors and their preachers. And that's wrong. Go ahead.
And they shall turn away their ears from the truth, and shall be turned unto fables.
In this day and age, it's so much proof, undeniable proof, right, that we are the sons and daughters of the one true living God, the children of Israel. Yet our people were turned their ears away from that to be African American. They'd rather be turned to fables and lies. They'd rather be Puerto Ricans and Mexicans. Instead of claiming the true birthright as an Israelite, now we've taken on all of these slave names, and we consider that to be the truth. And combat brothers and sisters who actually try to show you something better. Right? It's like when we was young, well, not even us, but in Christianity as a whole, no one ever questioned about Christ being a so-called white man. But now when you try to show him in the Bible that he's a so-called black man, now all these questions, and now there's all this hesitation and speculation. Well, how do we really know? And no one put up that type of fight when they shoved that white image in your face. So, don't be combative when now we're trying to show you something better in the truth, right? But read on.
But watch thou in all things, endure afflictions,
right?
Do the work of an evangelist.
And that's what we do. We're out here, literally seeking those who are seeking the Most High. We're not looking for everybody. We're looking for those who truly want to serve the Most High in spirit and in truth, as John chapter 4 speaks about, right? Read.
Make full proof of thy ministry.
So, and that's what we're doing. The more that we do these lessons, the more that our people are waking up and repenting, which means actually keeping God's commandments, we're making our ministry foolproof. And that's something that is respectable and honorable in the eyes of God. So let's continue to do these good works, y'all. I feel like it's crazy. I feel like, let's go to Proverbs real quick, chapter 3. I feel like so many times when we speak about the conditions that our people live in, the plight of so-called blacks and Latinos, our people downplay the effects of slavery and how it's affected us, right? They try to make it seem as if like, oh, that was so long ago. The fact that we're even willing to say something like that when no other nation of people on this earth get down like that. The Japanese people are still heated at America for dropping bombs on them. Our people being shot down in the street like dogs, and we just, we're okay with it because we got our Mercedes-Benzes, right? Gas prices then dropped. You got a promotion on your job. And it's just wild. Our people got to a space to where we got comfortable in being oppressed. So let's read Proverbs chapter 3, and I believe it's verse 31.
Proverbs 3:31, envy thou not the oppressor.
The Bible tells us to envy not our oppressors. You know, for everybody who wants to sit here and say the Bible is a so-called white man's book and this was given to us during slavery, why would it say this? If you're being oppressed, the Bible is saying you shouldn't be okay with that. That don't sound like something a slave master would give a slave, right? But all the different ways that our people is being oppressed, the Bible is letting us know that this is something we should not be okay with, and we shouldn't envy what it is we're seeing, because our people, we see the success of our oppressor, right? We see the lifestyles that so-called white people live, and now we start to live a lifestyle so we can get those same type of rewards. But that's what got us in captivity to begin with. Sinning. Go ahead.
And choose none of his ways.
Exactly. Choose none of his ways. Our people choose all the ways of America, all the ways of our oppressor. Here it is, we're in October, and you got Christians globally, Catholics globally getting ready to celebrate Halloween. Mm-hmm. That's a way of your oppressor. How are you going to sit here and say you're a child of God and you're supposed to resemble everything holy and righteous, but you dressed up as a demon slut on Halloween? Sexy ants and sexy bees. Where you read about that in the Bible? And it's crazy because I remember a couple of years back, this is back on the Doty, sisters is out there half naked. We screamed out the window, put some damn clothes on. They said, ugh, I'm grown. What does that mean? What does that have to do with anything? But we choose the way of our oppressors, right? We turn on MTV, right? We turn on all of these different shows, and they see how they parade our women around naked, making whores out of our people, and we envy that. They say, man, they made it to the big screen. I got to do that to make it there as well. No, that is not the way. And there's so many other ways that our people envy our oppressors, and it's sad. You see our sisters dyeing their hair blonde, literally looking like the devil that the Bible speaks of. It's crazy to me, but it's a beautiful thing to see how the Most High's word is true, because he said, I'm going to send my spirit out in the earth, and it's going to be our people waking up in mass numbers. It's so many people waking up on a day-to-day basis, acknowledging who they really are, right? And all praise be to the Most High for the operations he's allowing us to do under the banner of True Nation. We got brothers in the Philippines who 30 years ago would have probably never heard of this because there was no such thing as the internet, right? We got chapters in Africa, all throughout Africa. We got people in the Caribbean islands. Like, there's Israelites waking up everywhere, and it's so comforting to know that the Most High's word is true. That's why, man, no one could ever tell me what I'm doing is worthless or it's vain or it's not true. It's like, nah, joke's on you, right? It's crazy.
That just made me think, like the itching ears in so many different ways, not even just scripturally. Like, you know, there's been this huge push, Megan Thee Stallion, her whole thing, it's my body, my choice, I do this, I can do that. Everybody has itching ears. So for all the women that don't want to abide by what's considered a traditional woman, for anyone that doesn't want to be a traditional man, you feel like you're someone stuck in another body, all these different things. Well, now there's a doctrine for it. Right. Not just in the truth they're using in scriptures, but there's even doctrines in the world that are foreign to the world. And even those who are without the light can see, okay, there's something wrong with that. Yeah. There's something wrong. This is not normal. But there's so many doctrines and so many people that are following. It's so easy to be able to, not only for people to get tossed to and fro, but to follow that multitude to do evil. Because there's so many people, there's a certain level of comfort that everyone's getting. And then when you got jakes that come into the truth and they know the light, get wary and come up with a new doctrine to be able to justify this newfound lifestyle, or come up with a new doctrine to be able to justify completely going off. It's one thing to say, okay, this is a difficult season or whatever the case may be, but it's another to just say, okay, we don't have to keep the laws anymore. We don't have to do that anymore. I don't know. Wait. You didn't just suddenly get a revelation thousands of years later. All the prophets, all those who were in tune with the Most High Spirit. If he told Ezra that he was too far in the world.
Right. 2022, we any closer?
Come on now. Ezra didn't have a cell phone. Ezra didn't have the internet. Ezra was out in the field by himself, completely removed from the people. I believe it was in Ezra where they said when they had to look for him because they was like, oh, don't remove yourself. Was that Ezra's?
Possibly.
I know it was prophets, if they were to remove themselves so that they could focus on the Most High, the people would seek after them like, hey, don't go too far because the Lord is with you. We don't want you to go to another city. We want you to be over here. So when the Most High gives you word, we can receive that word. So it's just crazy now to see, how many people feel like they have this amazing special connection. Like, if there were 3 kings that were not called defective, and then that's another thing. Like you were talking about the mental effects that things take. Matter of fact, let's go to Deuteronomy 28. Because the mind-blowing part about it, Jake's bringing this out as far as us being destroyed. Let me see. Start at verse 48.
It's the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 28, and verse 48. Therefore shalt thou serve thine enemies, which the Lord shall send against thee, in hunger, and in thirst, and in nakedness, and in want of all things. And he shall put a yoke of iron upon thy neck until he have destroyed thee.
So, first and foremost, he said he would only put the yoke of iron upon your neck until he has destroyed you. And there's a concept that's called learned helplessness, right? So pretty much it was a very simple experiment. They gave 2 sets of a class, 2 sets or 2 halves of a class, 2 different sets of words. And on one half, what is it called, an anagram, where you can mix the words and it can spell another letter? I'm not sure. I believe it's called an anagram. So basically they wanted them to solve, right? One half of the class was were given 3 words that were impossible to solve, while the other half was given simple words. But they all had the last word, which was the same, and it was possible. But the people who could not solve their problems, seeing everyone else's hand go up, saying, I'm done, I'm complete, I've already figured it out, they talked about they were frustrated, they started to lose hope. Then when they got to a problem that they could solve, they literally did not think that it was possible at that point. So you look at our people, if you look at like spies, CIA, FBI, soldiers behind enemy lines, they're taught to resist, but after years of trauma, years of mental effects, it starts to take its toll, and eventually they crack. So all the more reason, it's like, when we look at the curses, to the extent that the Most High said these things would be on us, you see so many of our people falling apart and breaking down. But that's why the Most High said the only way for us to reverse this is if we come back and start keeping the commandments. That's the only solution. So it just blows my mind how you have so many Jakes that will come up and start saying we no longer have to keep the law. We no longer have to do this. We no longer have to do that. That's the exact thing that got us here in the first place. That's the sole reason why we're in captivity, is because we were not honoring the Most High.
Now, it's crazy because when the scriptures say, envy thou not the oppressor, a lawless man, that is the the definition of Esau.
Facts.
Our oppressor, the so-called white man, they are a lawless people. And our people now adapt the same mindset. We ain't got to keep no law.
Right. So Most High just want us down here doing nothing, huh? Right. He just gave us this law.
You said so hell just going to be empty.
Right. Like, that's what everybody believes. So it's like hell's just going to be completely empty. Everybody's going up. The evil, the good, I mean, come on now, the believers, the non-believers. And I've even heard, it was crazy, a Christian, she was a teacher when I was in high school, and everybody was asking these questions. And she was like, well, from my understanding, if you did all this evil all your life, but right there on your deathbed, you say that you're sorry, you can pretty much you getting into heaven. And she was like, look at the 2 that died with Christ. I was like, nah. That's one instance where you see those men submitting themselves, and that might have been their first time even meeting Christ, I believe.
Yeah, the other one.
It was actually only even one of the 2. So that goes even more to show that it's not going to be everybody, but it's just mind-blowing. All these different things that all of our people have been led to believe that just continues to do more and more damage and drive us further into the curses. It's like, man, I want to go home.
Right. But it's like, is beauty and is ugly at the same time, right? It's bittersweet because, yeah, we know that we have to go through this. So it's a process of getting our people out of captivity. And it's been the same thing. What we're doing now is no different from what any of our forefathers did. Read about the book of Judges. Israel sinned, we became wicked, and it took the Most High to, rise up certain men and certain sisters to get the nation back on point. And when the Most High found us to be at a decent level, he said, all right, cool, now I'm going to come help you, right? It's the same thing we're going through today, but the only difference is, unfortunately, the whole nation of Israel is not going to be on that mind state, right? Everybody is not going to humble themselves and acknowledge the sin and, the iniquity that we committed against our God. So for that reason, like I said, it's comforting to see how many people are waking up, those who actually care about the Most High. Let's get that real quick. John chapter 4. Oh, you got something? Oh, okay, Con, we can get back to the questions.
Did you want to finish John 4?
Real quick, John 4, and I believe 24. Verse 20, yep, verse 24. Actually, verse 23.
John 4, excuse me, John 4 and 23. But the hour cometh, and now is, when the true worshiper shall worship the Father in spirit and in truth.
Right, not in ideology and theology, but in spirit and truth, right? You're going to open up these words and serve the Most High and love the Most High exactly how he said to serve and love him. Read.
For the Father seeketh such to worship him.
That's who God is looking for, not just anybody. He's looking for these people. Go ahead.
God is a spirit, and they that worship him must worship him in spirit and in truth.
You see that? It's not an option. He said God is a spirit, and anybody who wants to worship him must worship him in spirit and in truth. All right, Israel? So, I believe there was a question online.
Should Israelite women be wearing a veil? It's not required by law. You do see instances where it was an aspect of modesty. So let's go to 1 Timothy chapter 2. It's not required as far as there's something wrong with the woman, or, you know, it's like unlawful or not tradition if she does not wear a veil. But that was just an extra level of modesty that our foremothers understood and exercised within themselves.
Yeah. Yep. You want verse 11?
We started verse 9.
Con. 1 Timothy chapter 2, verse 9. In like manner also, that women adorn themselves in modest apparel, with shamefacedness and sobriety, not with broidered hair or gold or pearls or costly array.
So modesty is talking about the different aspects, right? So it says modest apparel. That's one of the first things. Obviously, it shouldn't be anything showing. There should be something still left to the imagination. You know, some women just have a shape that's difficult to be able to cover up, but it can still, you know, you might have to wear things that you might not find as interesting, but there are still alternatives so that you're not wearing a skin tight, nothing left to the imagination kind of dress. Right. Then it says with shamefacedness and sobriety. That's also another level of modesty, not being in everybody's face, having a certain level of couth about yourself, having a certain level of respect for yourself, so that you're not just walking around in everybody's face, super comfortable, all those kind of things, because that also can come with a certain look and reputation. Sobriety, you know, having gravity about situations. And then it says not with broidered hair or gold or pearls or costly array. Why? Because a lot of women, they'll be, and it's nothing necessarily or inherently wicked, but you have a lot of women that'll be, you know, head wrap, dress on, thing, you know, it's not skin tight. Then they have this super extravagant makeup and super extravagant hairstyle and, you know, all the jewelry and chains that they own all on at the same time. It's nothing inherently wicked, but that's very much so a look at me. That's like a, you know, like a peacock kind of effect. You can't do it in other ways, so now it's like, well, these are the things that I can customize. I'm going to take these things to the max so I can still be seen. It's not, like I said, it's not inherently wicked, but it is still like an aspect of modesty that's not being exercised. It says, or pearls, costly array, which, give me verse 10.
But which becometh women professing godliness with good works.
So it says, but which becometh women professing godliness with good works. Yeah. So it's, like I said, it's nothing inherently evil, but there's just different aspects of modesty that have to be exercised. And if a sister chooses to wear a veil, you know, more power to you. There's nothing wrong with that. It's nothing unlawful. That's a certain level of modesty that I feel like so many of our women in and out of the truth don't exercise.
And I'm going to take it a different route. And this is more along the lines of what you read about when Paul would be speaking. He said, look, I speak by permission, not law. Yes, I think our women should be wearing veils. You know, when we had an opportunity to go to Ghana, and there's a difference between the way that the women think over there and the way the women think over here. And one thing that they do to help get the women over there to think like how they think, which is complete humility, is the young women, they shave their hair off as kids. Not bald, but they cut their hair off. And what that does to the little girls is it teaches them it's not about your hair. It's not about how you look. just be a good person to be a good person, compared to over here where it's all about how you look. It's all about the weaves you wear, and it's all about this, and it's all about that. I think it definitely helps to keep, it's like a constant reminder. We wear our fringes to be reminded of the law. If a woman has her head covered 24/7, her face covered 24/7, it's a constant reminder to let her know that, man, I got to be in subjection. I am not of myself, right? There's an order that I need to follow. And we can see through just, going through time how our people have, strayed further and further away from that humble mind state. Let's go to Isaiah chapter 3 and verse 16. Because this is what our women are now. Because they don't practice things that promote humility and promote, being obedient to righteous men and things like that. Give me 3 and 16.
Isaiah chapter 3 and verse 16. Moreover, the Lord saith, because the daughters of Zion are haughty.
So, because the daughters of Zion are haughty. Let me show you this word haughty. Haughty. It says blatant or disdainfully proud. If that's not the women of Israel today, then I don't know who we are, right?
That's the women of America, bro.
Yeah.
Israelite women, Edomite women, honestly, all the ones, because the thing is, I won't say it's all Israelite women, but it's a vast majority of them, because a lot of
the nation as a whole.
Yeah, I was going to say a lot of what's being targeted as far as, independence and feminism and all of that is toward our women. But then you do have the remnant of, Edomites and Moabites and so on. But yeah, Israelite women are definitely like heavy on their pride. It's a whole different animal.
And now my thing is, when you have a physical reminder covering your head and face, you would have to be an extra prideful person to even get in that mind state, right? At some point, you got to be like, man, let me simmer down. And you can read that in 1 Corinthians 11, right? Talking about the order of things and how a woman, if she does things with her head uncovered, how it's a shame and how she actually, what's the word that's used? Dishonors, right? Our women actually used to care about dishonoring, right? Our women don't care about dishonoring no more. Nowadays our women are shameless, unfortunately, right? So haughty, blatantly and disdainfully proud, having or showing an attitude of superiority. When the woman is not the top of the food chain, men are, right? And above men is Yahweh Shai, our king. And above that is the Most High Yahweh.
That sounds misogynistic.
I don't care. I don't care. But let's read on. Keep going.
Moreover, moreover, the Lord said, because the daughters of Zion are haughty and walk with stretched forth necks and wanton eyes.
Wanton eyes. The definition of wanton, right? Merciless, inhumane, being without check or limitation. How hard is it to check a woman of Israel in 2022 when they're going off to say, sis, you need to humble down and get back in order? Order? You out of pocket. Right?
I even order. I'm not your slave.
Exactly.
I'm not your child.
Obey. I'm not a dog.
And let her not be one that's in a decent socioeconomic standing.
Right. You have a little something to back yourself up. And that's the cold part I hate about America. You could be a serial killer, serial rapist, but if you a rich person, somehow people will still find pity in their heart. Now, bro, literally, and we can't, that's not true. Everybody sitting here watching the Jeffrey Dahmer series, man, America makes celebrities out of criminals.
Facts.
Al Capone, they make celebrities out of gangsters. And they make it seem cool. Man, but he had the bread, though. Jesse Jackson and them killing people, running out of banks, stealing. But we look at that as cool. So it's all bad. But keep going.
And walk with stretched forth necks and wanton eyes, walking and mincing as they go, and making a tinkling with their feet. Therefore the Lord will smite with the scab the crown of the head of the daughters of Zion, and the Lord will discover their secret parts.
So because our women as a whole are not humble, because they're not righteous, because they don't respect righteous authority, the Most High actually visits our women and puts curses upon them. That's why the weave industry is like $1 billion industry, because naturally what used to be beautiful is just not growing. We got terms like chicken head and she ain't got no edges and that wasn't an issue at one point in time, believe it or not, sisters. But because of the lack of humility and righteousness, that is what the Most High did to try to humble you guys. So I would say, yeah, sisters should be covering their faces and heads at all times.
Oh, that man's wife must be unhappy.
Hey,
Hey, social media exposes a lot of stuff, bro. I be just scrolling through social media, Instagram, TikTok, and I just be listening to some of this stuff, and I'm like,
be amazed, huh?
I'm trying to figure out how you were able to muster up the audacity to allow yourself to hold the record button as these words came out of your mouth. Right. to allow yourself to be able to type and put. When you type and stuff, you can at least delete it. Like you type this. No, I'm talking about the ones that typed it and posted it. You typed this out. You read back over it for any spelling errors. You was like, yeah, this is it. This is the one. Like that really went that one's like that's premeditated. Like when you live, there's some things that slip out and it's like, damn, it's too late. But you wrote this out and you thought this was okay. It's like the society we live in is desperately wicked, bro. It's so sad and concerning. And what's crazy is the argument. I'll give you an example. I made a post on TikTok just talking about, traditional women. And I don't know where the notion of being oppressed, well, it was something else that they had said, and I'm like, at what point was this said? Right. Oh, it was. You want your wife to stay home and take care of the kids and take care of you and risk her career. And I said, at what point did any of those words come out of my mouth?
Right.
At what point did I say any of that? I said an individual it was an individual that said people who want a traditional woman equals a man who's too fragile to deal with a woman with a mind of her own. I said, why does a traditional woman not have to have a mind of their own? I don't, like, where did that come from? And then I went on to say, so a traditional woman, a woman who hasn't been passed around, a woman who wants to love you, a woman who wants to love their children and take care of their house, a woman who wants to know her role and be submissive. They said submissive. The 1600s are calling you back. I'm like, this is amazing.
They boss be calling back and they answer real quick.
Bruh.
Man.
They be real submissive to their bosses.
And it's so
and
cold that they don't even understand. Like, there's such a strong delusion that they don't even see, like, what submission actually means. And so it just blows my mind. And it's not just them, because it's a lot of men on there, too, that feed into a lot of the stupidity, and is a big reason as to why women, are on there for the attention, shaking their ass to these songs. I'm like, a lot of these men ain't got no discipline. We're living in a hypersexualized civilization, a hypersexualized society, and when you say something about it, when the scriptures talked about Christ and it said the light came to the dark and the dark didn't, what did it say? It's in John 1.
Yeah, where it says in that.
I'm going to grab it.
Because light has come into the world, how darkness.
I think it said they hated it or something.
Yeah, because light has come in.
Con, it was, Con, we'll get that. Where is it? I don't want to read all of John 1. Where's the scripture that I'm looking for?
3:19.
John 3?
Yeah,
First John or regular John?
regular John. Is that it?
John 3:19, and this is the condemnation, that light is come into the world, and men loved darkness rather than light, because their deeds were evil. For everyone that doeth evil hateth the light, neither cometh to the light, lest his deed should be reproved.
When you doing wickedly, you do not want to be corrected. So when you speak up against it, you're every word, you're every misogynist, you're every chauvinist, you're every woman hater, you're every. I'm just like, yo, it's crazy how you get condemned for wanting to do right. In this world, it's amazing. But let's go ahead. I saw we had a couple of questions.
Can the ribbon on fringes be purple?
No.
Yeah, Numbers chapter 15, 37.
Go ahead, read 37 through 38.
And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, and bid them that they make them fringes in the borders of their garments throughout their generations, and that they put upon the fringe of the borders a ribbon of blue.
Now, here's the, what did I just do? Here's the thing. What was that, Numbers 15? Go down to verse 30, what was that, 38?
Yeah, it's Hebrews H 85:04.
Right. Now, here's the thing, and this is where that that question comes up. It says violet stuff, violet thread, violet stuff or fabric. Blue, covering the spectrum from brilliant red through deep purple. Then you go on into the definition of cerulean muscle, this color violet obtained therefrom of stuff dyed therewith blue. So people only know the color violet to be purple, but they don't know that violet is a spectrum of a variation of purple over to blue. Just like the old nursery rhyme goes, roses are red, violets are blue, right? So, the way that we can confirm this, just go and look into history and look at the clothing of ancient Israelites and what color the ribbon was on their clothing. Look at the Native Americans, some of our Israelite brothers and sisters, their culture, and they also have fringes and they put ribbon. They have fringes and they put ribbon on their clothing, and you always see that it's blue. Even in the painted images, you see that it was blue, right? So, from the history that we've seen, from even the actual Strong's definition, it said that the blue that was on the ribbon came from a very specific creature. I guess it was a sea creature. They say it was a cerulean mussel. And if you look at it, it's like a really shiny, fluorescent type blue. It was never any purple, and you won't find that in history either. So, a ribbon of blue is actual blue, any variation of the color blue, not purple.
Navy blue, royal blue, so many different blues you can do. Next question, I believe it says, what tribe am I? My daddy is from Mississippi. Based off of that information alone, we would not be able to tell you what tribe you are from. Scripturally, you were never able to tell your tribe based upon where you were located. You were able to tell your tribe based upon who you descended from. We can get that really quickly in Numbers chapter 1, verse 18. True Nation actually doesn't teach the popular 12 tribes chart, where if you're from Mexico, you're an Issacharite. If you're from Guatemala, you're this. We don't teach that because the Bible doesn't teach that. Go ahead.
Numbers chapter 18?
Yeah,
I'm sorry, number 1, verse 18.
yeah.
Numbers chapter 1 and verse 18. And they assembled all the congregation together on the first day of the second month, and they declared their pedigree.
So you declare your pedigree. You can actually tell what tribe you come from, who you descend from, literally what type of pedigree you come from based upon what?
After their families, by the house of their fathers.
So we are a patriarchal people. We go by the house of our fathers. So based upon who your father is, that is how you would tell what tribe you are. However, we have been discontinued from our heritage, from that portion of it. Our records have been burned. Our libraries have been destroyed. We don't have those records no more. However, our spirit does bear witness that we are the children of the true living God. And the reason why we know that is because we keep his commandments. So I wouldn't be able to tell you, nor any of these other brothers, what tribe you're from. You'll find out when we make it to the kingdom. We each got a gate that we can all walk through once we make it.
Like it says in Zechariah 7:14, I've scattered them like a whirlwind amongst all the nations, right? So They didn't say that they threw all of Judah in one area, all of Benjamin in one. It said everyone went everywhere in every way, and that's what it was. But like Yash was saying, the scriptures also say that the Spirit will bear witness with His Spirit that we are the children of the Most High. So if you're able to keep these laws, if this word does resonate with you, then there is a very strong possibility that you are an Israelite. Because 2nd Ezra chapter 3 and verse 36, Ezra said, he said, you could look all across the world, all across these nations. He said, only Israel by name have kept thy precepts, but not the heathen. So we can't find definitively which tribe we are from today, because like y'all said, all of our records have been burned. We have been scattered. We've been disenfranchised from our heritage. A lot of us had to be reprogrammed. A lot of us are just now finding out who we are. So there's no, the Bible doesn't say your tribe is predicated on a geographic location. And since it doesn't say that, we can't say for sure, you know, what tribe each individual is from. But if you keeping these laws, you striving for righteousness, you striving to endure these words in the scriptures, then there's a very strong possibility that you are one of the children of Israel.
All praises. The next question says, can white women marry
No.
into the kingdom?
No.
So you telling
No.
me I can't get a white woman, and because she's my wife, God
No.
gonna let her into the kingdom to live happily ever after?
No.
Why not?
You don't read that nowhere. As a matter, go to Isaiah 13. Verse, I think it's 15.
Isaiah chapter 13 and verse 15. Everyone that is found shall be thrust through.
So it's talking about the people who wanted to be heathen sympathizers.
Let me read verse 14 for
Go
context. Verse 14 for context. Isaiah chapter 13 and verse 14. And it shall be as the chased roe and as a sheep that no man taketh up. They shall every man turn to his own people and flee everyone to his own land. Everyone that is found shall be thrust through, and everyone that is joined unto them shall fall by the sword.
Right, read.
Their children also shall be dashed to pieces before their eyes. Their houses shall be spoiled, and their wives ravished.
And this talks about, in verse 1, it says, the burden of Babylon. And then it continues to go on, and it talks about the kingdom of the other nations. And it's saying that anyone that wants to be a sympathizer with these people will be thrust through. You will be destroyed too. Also, we see all through the scriptures, in Ezra, in Nehemiah, in Kings, you're not supposed to be marrying these other nations anyway. And salvation is, what is that? John, read that. John 4, and, yeah, John 4 and 22?
You want that?
Yeah. John 4 and 22, and then can we get Revelation 21, 14? We're talking about the kingdom, the gates of the kingdom.
John chapter 4 and verse 22. Ye worship, ye know not what. We know what we worship.
Why?
For salvation is of the Jews.
And Matthew 1 and 21 said Christ will save his people from their sins. Salvation will be to his people, the Jews. Revelation 21 and 12.
Revelation 21 and 12. Having the glory of God, and her light was like unto a stone most precious, even like a jasper stone, clear as crystal.
Read.
And had a wall great and high, and had 12 gates. And at the gates 12 angels, and names written thereon, which are the names of the 12 tribes of the children of Israel.
So the only people that can enter through these gates into the city unto everlasting life, it has to be a descendant of one of these particular tribes. So no, you cannot marry into. Once you get married, it does not change your race. Once you get married, you don't get the kingdom through that way. Now, if it be the Most High's will and you're submissive, you know, upon the return, then you know you can be a servant for a time, because it says all of Esau, because they asked specifically about Edomite. All of Esau is going to be destroyed in the end, but for a time they can become a servant. So, yeah, nah.
I want to get real quick 1 Ezra chapter 8 and verse 69, and then we could drop down to chapter 9 and verse 7.
Verse 69. The nation of Israel, the princes, the priests, and the Levites have not put away from them the strange people of the land.
So our people was marrying all of these different strange nationalities of people, and God was not happy with it because we were allowing them to influence us and turn away from our God. But go ahead.
Nor the pollutions of the Gentiles.
So who were some of these people that we were marrying? Go
To
ahead.
wit, of the Canaanites, Hittites, Perizzites, Jebusites, Moabites, Egyptians, and Edomites.
And Edomites. That is the nation of so-called white people. They're not, European or Caucasian. Those are more recent terms. Their father is Esau, who created the nation of Edom, Edomites. Now go to chapter 9 and verse 7.
Verse 7.
So in chapter 8, he said, we haven't put them away. So now let's see what this ends up being. Go ahead.
So Ezra arose up and said unto them, Ye have transgressed the law in marrying strange wives.
So we started to sin by not listening to the laws of God. Go ahead.
Thereby to increase the sins of Israel.
Now here we are in captivity because of our sins. So like the brother already explained, no. No, it's not possible. The next question. Do we have anything on Facebook? I'm on YouTube.
There is, but these two have been here before.
So the next question on YouTube says, should daughters be free to move out when they turn 18 years old, or do they have to stay in the father's home until they marry an Israelite? It's a good question.
Great question. Let's start off on Sirach 42.
Great scripture.
Oh, praises. 42, we're going to start at verse 9. And we're going to read down. Let's read down.
Sirach chapter 42 and verse 9.
Uh-huh.
The father waketh for the daughter when no man knoweth, and the care for her taketh away sleep. When she is young, lest she pass away the flower of her age, and being married, lest she should be hated.
So it's saying a father is going to wake up when nobody else is awake. He's waking up out of his sleep. He's concerned for his daughter. He always has this this care for her because he wants her to grow up to be wise, to be a chaste woman, to get married the right way, and to not just get married, but to have a successful marriage. Go ahead.
Verse 10, and her virginity, lest she should be defiled and gotten with child in her father's house.
And he's caring about those things because also that's very clearly a shame, right? Even though nowadays it's so loose and everyone's trying to redefine things, that's still something that's shameful. Getting pregnant so early, you don't have an opportunity to grow, to figure things out, to establish yourself, but you already have a child, it puts you in a difficult predicament. And then it also puts a strain on not only the parents, but it's kind of a representation of what she's been taught. Someone hasn't been watching you. Someone hasn't been raising you up, right? Go ahead.
And having a husband, lest she should misbehave herself. And when she is married, lest she should be barren.
Then having a husband, now she's misbehaving herself. She's not conducting herself properly. So now she's giving him hell. And it says, or she should be barren. So you see that with when McCall came out to meet King David. And she was talking about how he was dancing and how he was in front of the handmaids. It said from that point on, she didn't have any children, right? Because look at the way that she was conducting herself. The Most High closed her womb to where she wasn't able to bear children. Go ahead.
Keep a sure watch over a shameless daughter, lest she make thee a laughing stock to thine enemies.
So one of the things to take into consideration, absolutely, first and foremost, a man or a father is responsible for the marrying of his daughter, which is the scriptures are going to talk about. But before it talks about that, it says if you know that your daughter or this, you know that your daughter, she has shameless behavior, right? She's starting to adapt personalities or mannerisms that aren't becoming of a young woman and of a chaste woman. It says you have to keep a watch on her. You think she might, no, I don't think that's the best look for you. I don't think you're really thinking about this. You're being naive, whatever the case may be. You have to make sure that you're watching out for them so that they don't make a mistake. They don't get married super early in their lives, misbehave themselves, grow up and have a bad reputation and bring someone else's household down. Go ahead.
Lest she make thee a laughing stock to thine enemies and a byword in the city and a reproach among the people.
And then everyone knows whose daughter that is. Whose kid is that? That's whose? Psh. It's like a total lack of respect. If you can't control a man not being able to rule over his own household, whether that be his wife, whether that be his children, his daughters, it's all a reflection of the type of man that he is and the type of hold that he's had in his household. Because if you were the head of the household, as soon as you saw there were things that were being exhibited in your daughter that you didn't approve of, it should have been shut down. But now she's older to the point where she's making her own decisions, she's finding different ways to be able to leave the house, has a certain level of independence. Now she's going to bring a shame onto you, and you're going to be known for having that shameless daughter. Go ahead.
and make thee ashamed before the multitude.
Uh-huh.
You want verse 12?
Drop down to... That's all I wanted. There is a specific scripture that talks about when you marry your daughter, you performed a weighty matter.
Yeah.
But it talks about the various things as far as, first and foremost, how the father has that concern. But it's at the father's discretion when and if she gets married, right? So a man still has to request permission from the woman he plans on marrying's father and have that, that approval. So it's not required that she moves out at 18. It's not required that she gets married. That's ultimately at your discretion. If you feel like you have a daughter where she has the desire, she has the financial stability, or you send her off to college, whatever the case may be, and there's that level of trust, by all means. But if you have a shameless daughter, or you kind of like, I don't know, I don't really trust you with that level of freedom, it says you better keep a watch on them. Otherwise, they'll bring shame unto not only themselves, but unto you as well.
Let me grab a few. No, I want to grab a few, but yeah, I want to touch that one too. Let's go to Deuteronomy 22, and I want to start at verse 15. I also want Genesis chapter 24 and verse... Where I want to start.
And for those in the chat, Ibad and Zechariah, we see your questions. We're going to get to them in just a moment.
We'll start at verse, say 50 for Genesis. What I say, Deuteronomy 22. Read 20. I want 15 and
Want to start at verse 13?
We can start at 13. 13 down to 17.
Deuteronomy chapter 22, verse 13. If any man take a wife and go in unto her and hate her and give us occasions of speech against her and bring up an evil name upon her and say...
So it says a man that takes on a wife, a man that took a wife, right, read?
And say, I took this woman, and when I came to her, I found her not a maid. Then shall the father of the damsel and her mother take and bring forth the tokens of the damsel's virginity.
So the father and the mother are going to show proof that this man did lay with her, took her virginity, and married her. Read.
Unto the elders of the city in the gate. And the damsel's father shall say unto the elders, I gave my daughter.
Says, I what?
I gave my daughter.
He gave his daughter, read.
Unto this man to wife. And he hateth her.
Right. So we see that the man married off his daughter. Go to Sirach 7 and 25 or 24. Go ahead and read that in Genesis. So it says that a father and a mother, they are the ones that come and marry off their daughter. We also see that in the book of Tobit. And these women were in their parents' household before they were married off. It's a new phenomenon where at 18 years old, especially amongst our people, at 18, I just can't wait to get out the house. I can't wait to separate from you. I can't wait to get away from you, right? Hispanic culture, 10-tribe culture, even Edomites, white culture, Asian people, Asian culture, until they find someone to be with, this is tradition. This is a traditional household. Wait until you find, this is even biblical. Wait until you find someone to get to marry before you leave the house. Until then, you can stay here. But this new thing in America, this new thing especially among so-called African Americans, is once you're 18, you got to go. You pay bills, you got to go, one of the two. But even back in this time, our children lived with us until they got married. Right here it showed that, and in addition to that, they didn't just marry whoever they felt like it, who they thought was good for them. Their parents were the ones that gave the okay and married them off to an individual. Read Genesis 24, verse 60, I'm sorry, verse, I think I said let's start at 50.
Genesis 24 and 50. Then Laban and Bethuel answered and said, the thing proceeded from the Lord. We cannot speak unto thee bad or good. Behold, Rebekah is before thee. Take her and go, and let her be thy master's son's wife, as the Lord hath spoken.
So she was also still living, as you continue to read on, you can read all the way down to 64, she was still living with her parents until she was married off. Go to Genesis chapter 2. Read that Sirach 7, Shamar.
I got it. Oh, you guys do? Sirach 7 and 25. marry thy daughter, and so shalt thou have performed a weighty matter.
So a man and the parents are the ones that are marrying off their daughter. So in addition to them not just being out the house at 18, they also weren't the ones that were like, I don't care what you say, I'm picking this spot. This is what I'm doing. Now they did have a safety, what do they call it? I guess a safety valve for when they decided to, go off and lay with someone or whatever the case is. That's why the scripture say if you gamed her up, you laid with her, you better take care of her. That's law. That's now your wife. But it says, and then there's a payment if the father utterly refused, meaning he didn't want you to marry her in the first place. There is a penalty for that, right? So it's tradition and it's law that the father should be the one marrying off the daughter. Genesis 2, and I want to read 24. Whichever one of y'all got that, Genesis 2 and 24, and that'll be my last one. Genesis, yeah. Genesis 2, verse 24.
Verse 24. Therefore shall a man leave his father and his mother.
So the same thing with the son. It says a man will leave his father and mother and do what?
Therefore shall a man leave his father and his mother and shall cleave unto his wife, and they shall be one flesh.
So until they find someone worth marrying and starting their own family, they remain a part of their previous family. That's how Israelite families and Israelite culture worked. So no, at 20 you shouldn't be just, or 18 you shouldn't just be, boom, I'm gonna kick you out the house. Especially as a woman, because then that leaves you susceptible to be able, I'm grown now, I can do what I want, I got my own place, and that's where Satan begins to be able to tempt you. Yeah, you grown, you can bring whoever you want over the house. You grown, you can stay out as late as you want. But under the household of your parents, there are still rules, there are still restrictions to make sure that you're well taken care of. Like Shamar read earlier, the father waketh late at night to check on the daughter. It's his job to protect. It's his job to check in on his daughter, right? So, no, at 18, you should not just be bounce, I'm out.
And it's really just getting back to our traditions. Traditionally, our women, it wasn't like they had to wait till they were 30 to be married anyways.
Facts. We
did arranged marriages. So by the time a sister became of a certain age, it was already understood what man was going to take her on, like what house she would go to from there. So, we just got to work more on getting back to what we used to do and being proud of our culture. Next question I see is there any type of prayer to recite before fasting on the Day of Atonement? There's a lot of good prayers that you can read. One that we like to go to is in Psalm chapter 51. And we're not going to read the whole thing, but, King David gave really good insight on what the Day of Atonement is about, which is us confessing our sins, to one another, but mostly to the Most High and asking for that forgiveness, right? Not for nothing, but because we would change and do better moving forward. So we could just read Psalm 51, and let's start at verse 1.
Psalms 51 and 1. Have mercy upon me, O God, according to thy loving kindness. According unto the multitude of thy tender mercies, blot out my transgressions. Wash me thoroughly from mine iniquity, and cleanse me from my sin.
Right. Drop down to read verse 9.
Hide thy face from my sins, and blot out all mine iniquities.
Not just because, but because of this. Go ahead.
Create in me a clean heart, O God, and renew a right spirit within me.
So this is something good, and I'm pretty sure you can find a lot more, prayers and sayings that go along with this, but anything that's going to keep you in the mind state of being humble and transparent with the Most High, asking for forgiveness and asking that he puts within us a clean heart that we can serve him perfectly moving forward. But there's no, by law, you have to read this prayer when, keeping the Day of Atonement or anything. So, Yeah.
Zachariah's questions on YouTube now, and then the other one I wrote down.
I think his came in afterwards.
No, his is, the seals has been in there for a while. It was just on YouTube. I mean, Facebook. Brother asks, I have read Revelation chapter 5, 6, 7, and 8, and I'm still trying to figure out with the 7 seals which seal we're in right now. I keep reading it over and over. Can y'all give me understanding? 2 things. So There is a scripture that specifically says that all the plagues that are going to come to Babylon are going to happen at once. But also, when you read, there are two places that I always go to kind of reference, right? One of them is Matthew chapter 24, and the other is 2nd Ezra, I believe, chapter 15. And I think that we oftentimes look at things like, scripturally speaking, we always try to look chronologically. Some things are chronological, but they're not exclusively, and more so, they're more so signs, right? So say, for example, let's go to Matthew 24 first. Like when Christ spoke about these things, he said these are the beginning of sorrows. This is just to give you all a point of reference of what's going to happen, but he's still coming as a thief in the night. So if you knew there was at some point, this is when the thief is coming, you know to be about when to be on guard, but that doesn't mean you know the exact time. If someone says someone's going to break into your house this week, stay up every night, but you don't know which day they're coming. So he's still coming as a thief in the night. Let's start off at verse 3.
Matthew 24:3. And as he sat upon the Mount of Olives, the disciples came unto him privately, saying, Tell us, when shall these things be? And what shall be the sign of thy coming and of the end of the world? And Yahushua answered and said unto them, Take heed that no man deceive you.
So the first thing he said was, be careful, because don't be deceived. Go ahead.
For many shall come in my name, saying, I am Christ, and shall deceive many.
Go ahead.
And ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that ye be not troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet.
Go ahead.
For nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. And there shall be famines and pestilences and earthquakes in diverse places.
Go ahead.
All of these are the beginning of sorrows.
The beginning of sorrows. So look at all the different things that he warned of. He said, many are going to come in my name saying I am Christ. Now you have instances of people who literally have come and said that they are Jesus Christ. They are the Messiah himself. And they've deceived many of people. You would think that it would be pretty simple to say, that's very unlikely. Why didn't you come back the way that you said you would come back? Where's the lightning? Where are the trumpets? Where's your glory? Why? You're how old? 45? You've been on earth for 45 years and you're just now revealing yourself. It's all different types of things that people aren't paying attention to, and they're being deceived. It was one he was either in Mexico or in Brazil, if I remember correctly. He was telling people that he was Christ and getting them to tattoo 666 on their bodies. Some of them had it on the shoulders, the back, the ankle, just in various different places. They were accepting the 36s because he was saying that basically it was no longer important, and deceived many. But there's also times where people come in the name of Christ claiming to be a prophet. I had a dream. God told me to tell you, if you bless me, God's going to bless you. You have all these different things where people are, trying to convince you to buy your way into the kingdom. Just keep giving money, and that's all it's going to take. And at the end of the day, you're going to seek salvation. You out there selling drugs and doing all types of wickedness, but as long as you giving that drug money to the church, you're going to make it. That's deception, and that's a doctrine of devils that so many of our people fall into because it's convenient. I don't want to pick up the Bible. I don't want no real accountability, but this is the man of God, and he's telling me all I got to do is give this money. I'll do that. You've been deceived by someone claiming to be coming in the name of Christ. Mm-hmm. We hear about all these different wars and rumors of wars, right? Iraq, Afghanistan. America was over there for what, 20, 25 years? Then the Ukraine and Russia conflict that's currently ongoing. What is that, North Korea with Kim Jong-un, how many times he threatened he was going to blow up the entire world, and somehow that didn't happen. Putin always making his, his remarks. You have all these instances, and I follow a lot of like prepper channels and informational channels on YouTube. Just about every day, every one of those channels puts out a war is coming, prepare for the end, this is the absolute worst thing that can happen, those super clickbait titles, but it's like, don't be troubled. All these things not only have to happen, but oftentimes they're wars or they're rumors of wars. All those things are happening, right? He said, but the end is not yet. Nation rising against nation, kingdom against kingdom. So different nations of people within the same kingdom rising against each other, like how you saw that Edomite who went down in Buffalo, right? You see all these different inner intertribal wars, but also interracial wars that are constantly taking place. Small battles are small bouts, but it's ultimately leading for a nation to rise up against nation entirely, and then kingdom against kingdom. So when you're looking at just the seals, or to say where we are, so many of these things have happened so many different times throughout history. It's ultimately still how Christ has that thief in the night semblance for us to be able to understand, stay right. Because there's not too many things that we can't say have not happened at one point or another. Blood moons are nothing new. We're not seeing the first blood moons in 2022. We're not seeing the first chariots in 2022. We're not seeing the first signs of heaven in 2022. We're not seeing the first wars, the first diseases. We're not seeing the first epidemics and pandemics. None of these things are brand spanking new. All of them are signs for us to be able to say, okay, we're getting closer to the time. And then even then, now we're starting to see things are picking up. They're becoming a lot more frequent and a lot more consecutive. That shows us that we're getting closer, but Christ is still coming like a thief in the night. No man knows the day nor the hour. We just know to constantly try to get as ready as we possibly can be, so that when he's walking the earth, he'll be like, oh, okay, I remember you, as opposed to, I never knew you.
What's the next one?
And then also you can read 2nd Ezra 15. We don't have to get it. I just want to, for the Jake that's interested, or anyone that's interested, from like 15 all the way down to 27, like breaking into houses. We think it's going to be a mass scale like you see in the movies, where it's just so chaotic, no one has any control. But I think they say it's a, yeah, like the Purge. It's a break-in, I think, every 6 seconds in the U.S. That's literally 5. Someone's door just got kicked in. It's that fast. So that's 10 break-ins a minute. Those things are already happening in the earth. So it's not like it's some sign that we have to wait for. It's already happening. Next question was, how do you find out your real name in Hebrew? Do you mean, Sister Chantel, do you mean as far as translating your name from English to Hebrew, or do you mean being given a Hebrew name?
Because not all English names have a Hebrew rendition. So and I think that's where the confusion comes in. Hebrew is a completely different language. They have different characters, and so, like the name Chantel, you won't find a Hebrew word that is, Hebrew for Chantel. Right. Chantel is CH, which is a Cha character, then the A character, then the Na, the Ta. Okay, keep going. Right. I guess the only part of her name is the L, which is Allah. Yeah, Chanath Allah or something like that. If Chanath is a word, actually, I think that might actually be a word.
She said both. So he explained the first half as far as not every name is going to translate, especially not to something that's going to...
especially in English, because, people be naming their kids Tequila, Mercedes.
Right.
And, you feel me, beautiful and precious and diamond and special. Like them more, you don't see those words. I know, right? Those words are not like actual words in Hebrew. Like if you want to say something like, you name your daughter Beautiful, then I guess you could say, well, beautiful in Hebrew is Yapa. So you'd be like, your name would be Yapa, if that's what you wanted it to be. But Mercedes ain't no Mercedes in Hebrew, or anything like that. Lexus. Like you don't find that in Hebrew. But I guess to the point of getting a Hebrew name, I mean, did you want to explain that? Okay. That just depends. A lot of people are given Hebrew names. A lot of the way that most of Israel, at least from everyone that I know that have Hebrew names, they've gotten it from an individual who was a teacher or a leader in Israel, or at least their teacher or their leader, and it was something in their spirit. They saw something in them that said, this name matches your spirit, the spirit that you have. And when you look in the Bible, a lot of times when a name was given, it was because of something that was going on in that particular time, which would cause them to name their child this according to what's going on around us right now, or even something that they would like to happen. Like Levi. Levi's name was Levi because Leah wanted Jacob to be joined unto her. And Levi's name means joined unto me. So she was like, surely for this, my husband will be joined unto me. So it really just depends. But for us, and most of the Israelites I know, it's, after they've been around an individual long enough, they talk to an individual long enough, they know them good enough, and this person decides they want a Hebrew name, they'll give them a name that matches their spirit. So that's how majority of us acquired our Hebrew name, and that's how you get a Hebrew name. We had another question. On YouTube or Facebook?
All praises, all praises. Sister said she's been learning more and more every day and been searching for the truth for over a year. It's a beautiful thing, and I'm glad you've found your way to, this live class. I definitely suggest that you subscribe to not only our YouTube but our Facebook pages as well, and just continue to learn with us, and if after a while you like what you see, you feel like this is the right space for you and your spirit, then reach out to us so we can get you in for membership, and that's what this is about. It's one thing to teach the world, but we're looking for those who actually want to come on this journey with us and help teach, because it's works that have to be done. We're literally building up the nation, and I've never seen a building that got built with nobody working. Right. So nobody rides the bench in Israel, even for the sisters. I don't know why it's put out like that, like, oh, this kind of like the man's thing, let them do it. No, there's a whole lot of work amongst the sisterhood that can be done. Work that sisters could do. From the kids to the rearing up of other sisters, there's so much work to be done. So all praises, sis, for you tapping in. And if you have any more questions, be sure to put them in there. We'll try to answer them to the best of our ability.
Especially if you're new. I mean, to be honest, the people that are in here, it shouldn't not be any questions, because I'm pretty sure that y'all don't know it all. And if y'all in y'all scriptures and trying to feed y'all spirit daily, trying to get your daily bread, I'm pretty sure there are questions that you guys would have. Now, if you're not being diligent and you're not studying, then, there are no questions to ask because you ain't been reading. You wouldn't know. But even more than that, because this is only once a month, for those that have additional questions, Shamar, put this in the feed, the comments. Our email that you can reach out to us on for other questions that, you guys may not have been able to ask anyone else. reply@truenation.org. That's for any inquiry, doctrinal information, anything about maybe something that you're going through. If you need, scriptures on prayer and understanding or healing. Say it again. If you've been following us long enough and you're saying that this resonates with your spirit, inquiry on membership. Reply at True Nation is where you guys, because some people are scared to even put their question on here because they don't want to be judged. Yeah, like, oh my God, people are saying, send it to reply@truenation.org. That's what we're here for. Like Yashima was saying, you got to put a space in between it. Yeah. That's what we're here for at the end of the day. We're trying to feed you brothers and sisters. We're trying to strengthen y'all faith. We're trying to build up you guys' faith, strengthen you guys in the spirit. That's the goal. Like, that should be the goal of everyone in Israel. We have a tendency to lose sight of the vision for the sake of entertainment and clout. We go on YouTube to watch people get cussed out and all of that. And for some people, that's what brought them into the truth. But that can only take you so far. At the end of the day, the scriptures never told us to go out and profess to the heathen, their judgment. The Lord said, I already gave that to him. He said, go out and gather your brothers and sisters. He said, go out and gather the lost sheep of the house of Israel. He said, and he said, and even dealing with your people, he said to make sure you cry aloud and spare not. But he also, when you read Paul, who was a minister of Christ, who was a man of the Lord, He said, when you dealing with these people, you deal with them in wisdom. When you deal with these people, you deal with them in understanding. He said, you speak to them and have your speech seasoned with salt and speaking graciously. There's a reason why he said that, because a lot of our people are ignorant, and a lot of our people, you could say the perfect thing to them, but if you say it in an offensive way, they completely miss the message. And you can't be too mad at an individual who is ignorant. Now, if you've given it to them and they're choosing to willfully be just stupid, then that's a different story. But you can't talk to the people and call them out of their name and disrespect them and all of that and expect them to receive what it is that you're trying to give them. That's why the media has given us this stigma of an angry hate group. Hell yeah, we're angry. And the thing is, they saying that we're a hate group. No, we teaching according to the Bible. We teaching love. But see, the Bible's definition of love and the world's definition of love are two different things. The world's definition of love is acceptance, unconditional. You could be a pedophile. You could be a homosexual. You could be a Optimus Prime. You could be any of these things, and we have to love you because God is love. That's not true. The Bible tells us love is correction and rebuke, and the world don't like that. But you got to remember, this is what's called modern day Babylon, the land of confusion, modern day Sodom and Gomorrah, the land of all types of unlawful debauchery, unlawful and wicked ways, which is contrary to righteousness. And like we read earlier, when light enters into the darkness, darkness received it not because darkness hated it, because darkness was evil, and evil doesn't like the light because the light is righteousness. That's just what it is. So it's unfortunate that's how it is, but there's a level of wisdom that we have to deal with our people in, and that's why we love doing the Q&A, because a lot of people in Israel are scared to ask questions because they're scared to be, shut down. They're scared to be made to look, as if they're stupid. They're scared to be rebuked off of an honest question, trying to gain understanding. So a lot of people just stay quiet and just follow along and just say, I'm going to just go along with the get along. But that's not right. The scriptures even tell you, don't be bashful or don't be bashed when it concerns your soul. Don't be shameful when it concerns your soul. If you're trying to get understanding, if you're trying to see, how do I walk this walk? How am I supposed to move in righteousness? Then ask your questions. And you got sincere brothers here that want to feed your spirit. And that's what we're here for. We're here for y'all. So if y'all got any questions, feel free to ask them. If not, we'll keep it open for probably like 5 more minutes. There should be a question that come in within 5 minutes. If not, then we'll.
Last question. She said, sister asked, what book is good to get more information? Of course, KJV, but where else? I was trying to figure out what you meant specifically, because that's a lot of different things that can cover.
Go. Yeah, but no.
Oh, no. Okay.
I'm going to tell you why. So the scriptures tell you, of course, it doesn't need a mate. It says, none shall want her mate. Seek ye out of the book of the Lord and read. Books get touchy because a lot of people will start to take what is written in these books and they will take it as scripture. They'll take it as gospel, even if it contradicts what the scripture says. So there are some truth and accuracies in a lot of the scholastic books that we read, but if you're brand new to the truth and you don't know how to separate the real from the fake, if you don't know how to what they call chew the meat and spit out the bones, then it will be a dangerous thing for you, because then you'll start going down a slippery slope and become what people refer to as a bug out. You'll start reading and believing stuff that is not biblical, and scriptures call that as a heretic. So what I would recommend, we have a lesson on pretty much just about anything. So whatever question you may have, I'm pretty sure there's a lesson on it. If you want understanding about, who are the Israelites today, if you want an understanding of why you read the King James Version Bible, if you want an understanding the basic laws, we have lessons on those. So feel free to scroll through our True Nation Israelite Congregation YouTube page. like I said, I'm not against people reading other books, but when you're brand new, it's a dangerous thing because then you start to slide into heresies because it's hard for you to separate what is actually accurate, what is actually biblical, and what is not. And some people will start taking the side of whatever the book said, and sometimes these scholars are not 100% accurate. And they'll take what's being said over there as opposed to what is in the scriptures. But one of the books that I'll say you should get, or one of the apps, whatever you want to call it, the Concordance. It gives you a better understanding of some of these English words because there are some English words that are not in Hebrew, or there are some Hebrew words that are not in English. So they try to find the best word that would fit that sentence or that phrase, and then they give you the Hebrew word for it and the actual definition of that particular word to help give you a better understanding as you read. So you're not just reading and just glancing over words and not fully understanding the magnitude of certain scriptures. But outside of that, I would say continue to feed your spirit. Continue to understand the scriptures first, and then, you know, after you've locked in and you have a strong foundation, then go and try to find other books. Until then, don't do that because the scriptures tell you, Ecclesiastes 12:12, the making of many books, there's no end. And much study is weariness of the soul, of the flesh. Excuse me. So you don't want to put yourself in that position where you endlessly going through all of these different books. And then you done gathered a bunch of information on nothing. Or you start believing heresies. We'll leave it open for a couple minutes then, if there be any other questions that may come up. The Concordance, the Strong's Concordance. You can find that on Amazon. You can actually find it on various Bible apps. Yeah, the App Store. You can go to blueletterbible.com. That's one of the main ones that I use. If you have an iPhone, they have an actual app, Blue Letter Bible app. But yeah, that should be the main, I guess, the main tool that you would have right now. Again, for y'all that ain't asking questions, I hope y'all been studying. Brother Yashimai was talking about it earlier today. A lot of these people be knowing everything about the world. Brothers be knowing everything about all of these artists and athletes, their lives, their teams, their records. They know what's going on with their fantasy football team. They up to date with the MLB and the NBA, but can't quote you 2 precepts on, you know, why we keep the Passover. Can't quote you no precepts on, you know, why we even here, why we doing this. And that just shows that, you know, we more in tune with our oppressors' culture, our oppressors' distractions than we are with what the Lord told us we needed to understand in order to get out of captivity, which shows us that we still love captivity. So I'm hoping y'all studying. Time is it? We'll hold it open until like 03. See if another question pops up. I'm sorry, for 3 more minutes till 05. And if it's nothing, then, you know, we'll close out. Where is it here now? %. All praises. Oof.
The best way to learn precepts is honestly just following along with the classes, because the classes that are done give you precepts for certain topics. You know, if the class is about, you know, tabernacles, brothers are going to show you all the precepts that go along with the history of tabernacles, why we keep tabernacles, the spiritual significance of tabernacles, and then through your own personal studies, your precepts, you just want to make sure that they make sense and that you can teach this to somebody. It doesn't do no good if someone's asking you, hey, can I eat pork? And you bring out a precept or a scripture that's talking about loving your enemies. So, you know, a precept is just...
you loving your enemies if you eating pork.
Right. So let's get that real quick. Isaiah, I believe 28, where it says precept upon precept, here a little, there a little. 28 and 10. Oh, 10, my bad.
Isaiah chapter 28, verse 10. For precept must be upon precept, precept upon precept, line upon line, line upon line, here a little and there a little.
Exactly. So if someone comes to ask me, say, hey, Yashima, I want to know, is it lawful for me to work on the Sabbath? I should be able to pull out precepts, line upon line, here a little and there a little, to show you that, no, it is not okay to work on a Sabbath day. So there's no like cookie cutter method to precepting, because the way I precept my Bible may be a little bit different from this brother and this brother. But the end all goal is to make sure that we're getting precepts that are good for the use of edifying. So just make sure whatever, scriptures you're gathering together around a certain topic is going to be able to edify somebody and teach them.
And remembering that, it was another thing we talked about earlier, repetition. That's the biggest thing, We can give you all the precepts in the world, but if you ain't going back and studying your precepts, what good does it do? And that's a lot of times what we tend to forget. We forget that it's not going to come overnight. Brothers up here got the wisdom and the understanding that they got from studying late nights over and over, same subject over and over, understanding that, these precepts are supposed to be in harmony one with another as well. So watch the lessons. The best way that we can explain, how to precept, watch how brothers, when we put together lessons, you hear the topic, you listen to the precepts, you see how they all run in harmony one with another and hold to that same topic, right? And then you also see how they are actually accurate. They're not some scripture that we just made up and tried to force an understanding on, right? And then when you see those scriptures and you see those precepts, you go back, you study them, not just once, not just twice, but you repetitively go over the scriptures. You repetitively go over the precepts. And also, you depending on the topic, when you have a topic, you kind of got to have a direction for it. Like if the topic is, the dietary law, I need precepts on the dietary law. Okay, well, where do you find the dietary law? You go to that scripture, see what it is you're specifically looking for. Okay, now I need supporting scriptures for this particular point. Okay, then you go through the scriptures and start to develop your supplementary scriptures, supplementary precepts, supportive precepts. So I think we do. That is actually one class that we probably should have, creating a lesson on how to precept your Bible. That would be a good one. God. We'll give it 2 more minutes then. We'll give it 2 more minutes, 9:09. It'll always be funny to me. Like I always try to process that. I'm like, it be really, people be having a bazillion questions during the week, calling and texting brothers, and then when Q&A pop up, ain't nobody got questions. It's kind of like when you were a kid. It was that every time you weren't supposed to do something, but the one time you were allowed or told to do it, for some odd reason, you don't want to do it now.
All praises to the Most High. Everybody that's saying thank you for the answers. All praises to the Most High.
All praises.
Kind. And I was just going to say, we did drop the email reply@trination.org. So if it's something that, we try to handle everything with discretion, so sometimes people have really personal questions, be it about themselves, their marriage, bedroom kind of policy, all those kind of things. If that's not something you want to post publicly because, basically, that's something private, you can send those to reply@trination.org. If it's something that you feel like, A, you still want to be answered, and B, it could be a question that more people have, because that's usually the case. We always feel like everything's exclusive to us, the problems that we're facing that we have questions about, the things that we desire to understand. We think that we're the only person that desires that understanding, and there are so many other people that have that same exact question. So if it's something that's private, or if it's something that's that requires a little more discretion, you can just send that in so that it can be answered accordingly. So we appreciate everybody that's tuning in. We appreciate everybody that's supporting us, coming on, sharing the classes, sending it to family and friends, helping spread the gospel, because ultimately the more people that we reach, the more that wake up, the more we're getting closer to that the number being fulfilled of those that are sealed, and the closer we get to going home. So please continue to tune in with us, continue to support the works that brothers are doing. We appreciate each and every one of y'all, and we say shalom.
Shalom.